Who is the greatest enemy in your life? Your misfortune, your destiny, or some person? No. The biggest disappointments were not inflicted on you by others. Your own words inflicted them on you. And do you know what's most terrifying? You don't disappear by staying calm as you think. You disappear by talking. Decide now. Haven't you torn the scab off the same wound over and over just to pour your heart out to the person in front of you? Or burned a fresh dream under the sun by announcing your goals to everyone before you even began? Haven't you, in a moment of rage, said sentences you can never take back? You're actually aware of everything, but you just can't seem to end the talking, can you? Because you've fallen in love with a story that keeps repeating your pains and shortcomings. Because saying, "I have no money, I'm so stressed, I always fail anyway," gives you a comfort zone to avoid facing the responsibility of real change. And with every recounting, every time you share your troubles, you turn that pain into part of your identity. Events were only your experiences, but by narrating them, you make them your identity. You keep watering weeds, and those weeds block the path of opportunity and new beginnings. That's exactly why you can't progress in life. Because while your tongue should be your greatest ally, it often turns into a silent enemy that slowly rots you from within. But enough. This video is not a lecture. This is a wake-up service. This is a guide to shattering the unconscious mechanism that pulls your trigger of speech. In this video, you will discover that keeping your mouth shut is the most powerful weapon to rebuild your life. At this point, an unshakable wisdom of 2,000 years steps in: Stoicism. For the Stoics, silence was not weakness or passivity. On the contrary, it was the most refined display of power. They were wise people who chose to be masters of silence rather than slaves to the words coming out of their mouths. In this video, we will adapt this ancient art of the sages to modern life. We will search for the answer to what not to say and when not to say it in 6 fundamental Stoic lessons that can change your life from the roots. From recounting the pains of the past to declaring goals you haven't started yet, from speaking in moments of anger to whispering about others, you will see how your tongue lures you into a trap and how silence can set you free. But before we begin, write this sentence in the comments for a fresh start. Today, I speak only for my own good. This sentence will be the first solid seed you plant in your subconscious. Because what you repeat becomes what you live. Because real power is not in saying everything, but in knowing what not to say and when not to say it. We begin now. 1. Stop digging the grave of the past. This is the first and perhaps the hardest lesson in the Stoic art of silence. Stop constantly recounting your misfortunes and the pains of the past. We all know that feeling of instant relief. Pouring your heart out to a friend, telling the injustice you suffered feels like a weight lifting off your shoulders. But it's like sipping a poison in small doses. It brings momentary relief, but slowly rots you from within. Because every complaint that spills from your tongue is a signature stamped onto the wound in your mind. When you tell the same painful story 10 or 20 times, it stops being an event that happened to you. It becomes your identity. With each telling, you reattach to yourself the label of victim, wronged, unlucky. Your experiences get stacked like an impenetrable wall over your character. For some, this turns into a kind of emotional addiction. Others' pitying looks and consoling phrases give a temporary sense of validation. It's a dangerous comfort zone, because if the problem is always outside, if the culprit is always someone else, then there's nothing left you need to change inside yourself. Talking is the greatest imitation of action. By talking about your problems, you cleverly avoid the responsibility to solve them. Yet real change starts not in noise, but in silence, in self-examination and consistency. As the slave philosopher Epictetus said,
It's not events that affect us, but the thoughts we have about those events. Consider the power of that sentence for a moment. If you keep telling yourself the story, "My life is so hard," your brain, to prove that story, will pull every difficulty around you like a magnet and present it to you. That is exactly the scarcity mindset. Direct your energy not to the things that hurt you, but to the things that build you. So change the focus of your speech. Stop narrating what's happening in your life. Instead, start talking about what you want to create. But do it not to prove anything to others. Do it to draw a new roadmap for your own mind. Stop being the gravedigger of your past. Be the architect of your future. And remember, true architects don't work with chatter. They work with a silent plan and bricks laid one on top of another. 2. Don't pull the sapling out of the soil early. The second, equally critical time to keep your mouth closed: don't proclaim your not yet sprouted goals and your change process to anyone. When you decide to start a new book, sign up for the gym, or change a dynamic in your life, something stirs inside you. It's so exciting that the first impulse is to share it immediately with someone. Don't. That initial intention is as fragile as a fresh sprout beneath the soil. Exposing it prematurely to sunlight, to others' opinions, judgments, and even praise is one of the biggest, most critical mistakes you can make. Behind this lies a simple but ruthless psychological trap. Our brain is a crafty machine. It doesn't distinguish well between real achievement and the applause for achievement. When you announce your goal before taking a single step, the congratulations and approval send a reward signal to your brain. That cheap sense of victory keeps you from the real work, from walking the difficult, disciplined path. You trade the power of action for the false satisfaction created by words. Not only that, but the outside world is unpredictable. Even the most well-intentioned advice can shake your not yet rooted sapling with a gust of doubt. A look that asks, "Can you really do it?" Or a sentence that says, "I tried, it didn't work," plants toxic seeds in your mind. Remember, change is a personal war. No one outside can fully feel the heat of the fire you've lit inside. That's why the Stoics have urged the same thing for centuries. Epictetus's legendary line is the clearest roadmap here. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Don't say you've become a new person. Be that person. Don't claim you're more disciplined. Act with discipline. Every moment you try to prove you've changed, you reveal you still crave the outside world's approval. So guard your goals, the promises you make to yourself, like a sacred garden. Shield them from the crowd's wind and noise. Water that garden quietly and patiently with your own inner discipline. The more valuable what you build is, the more carefully you must protect it. Because real change grows in silence, and when its time comes, it no longer needs words. Your presence speaks. 3. Don't open your sacred grounds to everyone. Now we come to the most delicate, intimate, and important lesson in the Stoic art of silence. The third area where you must remain quiet. Your not yet scarred wounds and your deepest fears. The modern world keeps telling us that vulnerability is a strength. That's true, but incomplete. A wound opened too soon and to the wrong people isn't a show of strength. It's an invitation to infection. Vulnerability becomes power only when you know when, to whom, and how much to open. Displaying it mindlessly to everyone merely leaves you exposed. When you share your deepest fears, you expect the other to understand you. But even with good intentions, most people aren't mature enough to carry that weight. They may try to measure your deepest trauma by their shallow experiences. They may say, "You're exaggerating," or worse, offer empty consolations that trivialize your pain. Imagine two ships gliding side by side on the same sea. Everything is the same, built by the same engineer, same wood, same sails. A storm erupts. The same waves batter them both, the same wind shakes them both. Yet when the storm ends, one ship returns to port shaken but upright, while the other sinks to the ocean floor. Why? The ships were the same, the storm was the same, but the captains were different. One captain was seasoned, the crew was disciplined, they had weathered many storms before. Your trauma is like that ship. When someone says, "I've lived the same things," remember they only see the outside of the ship. They can never know who your inner captain is, how tired your crew is, and the marks left by the storms you overcame to get here. Expecting from others an understanding and approval you haven't yet given yourself is like asking an echo to guide you. It only reflects your own anxiety back to you. Stoicism doesn't teach us to suppress fear.